Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a 2-for-1 card featuring ink blending and glimmer paste through a stencil. And this stencil is a part of a brand new release from Pinkfresh Studio that's available today, featuring a bunch of new stencils as well as some coordinating dies, and I think you're going to love the results that you get. Now this card here I will be sharing in a future video, but I will be sharing those layered Sunburst cards that you saw first in today's video. I wanted to walk you through the release and give you a peek at all of these stencils and coordinating dies. These stencils are actually stencil sets. So there's several stencils that you can use to create these beautiful floral images and patterns. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, there are coordinating dies. Now, I love these stencils for a couple of reasons. Number one, stencils are really budget friendly. I'm not going to say cheap. They're budget friendly. They're less expensive than a stamp set, but these stencils are also numbered. So there's a number in the upper left-hand corner that tells you what order to do it in. And you can see there's some little marks around the outside edge. That coincides with your A2 size card front or card base. So you're going to layer these up in the order that they're numbered to create your beautiful scene. And then there's a coordinating die where you can cut this out. Now, this is so easy to do. And if you'll recall, a couple months ago, I shared a project featuring these types of products for slimlines over on the Pinkfresh Studio YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. A lot of people really love the project that I created. Now, these are more geared towards A2 size cards in this release. And there are several available, like I mentioned, with coordinating dies, including this one here, which is the daisy wreath that I used on that card that you got a little sneak peek of earlier. Now, there's also several stencil sets in this release that do not have dies available. Some of them are these layering stencil floral patterns, like you see here. There's one that kind of creates this circular pattern, one that creates kind of this hanging garden pattern, and the other that kind of creates this panel of floral elements. And then there are also several pattern stencils as well. And that's what I'm going to be using today. You can see that layered Sunburst stencil there on the top. There's a couple slimline stencils. There's a cloud builder and a mountainscape slimline stencil. And then there is this group of A2 size stencils to create some really cool patterns on your card. Now you can either blend this over the entire surface of your card, or you can do a partial blending. So there's a quick run through of the entire release. And now I'm going to move on to this layered Sunburst stencil set. This is designed for an A2 size card, and there are 3 stencils in this set, and you can use them separately or together depending on the look that you want to create. Now these are numbered as well, so they have stencil number 1, 2, and 3, and there are the little kind of hash marks on the outside that give you a guide for your A2 size card front, but I decided to cut my cardstock to the size of the actual stencil. So this is 5 by 6 1/4. It's a little bit larger than what I'm going to need, but that just kind of gave me a little freedom in my creating. I just figured this was the easiest way to do it. And I'm going to tape my first stencil in place using a little bit of purple tape. And then I am going to blend using some blender brushes. Now I am using some lighter colored inks for this. I'm going from Coral Reef to Peach Fuzz to Lemon Whip. Then I'm going to move into Fresh Pear, Mint, and Soft Lilac. Now you're going to see I am not masking off the areas of this rainbow ink blending that I'm creating. I'm kind of allowing the colors to overlap because the stencil set itself has some overlapping going on. So I'm just allowing the pink to blend into the orange, to blend into the yellow and the green, and so on. And this is what the stencil looks like when you just use the number 1 stencil. It's absolutely beautiful, but wait until you see this as we layer it up. So now that I have my first stencil done, I'm going to move into stencil number 2. And I'm going to line it up with this piece of cardstock that I'm using and tape it in place using the same purple tape that I used before. And I did want to mention I'm using just some regular old Nina Solar White heavyweight cardstock. So I don't have any kind of special cardstock that I'm using. This is the white cardstock that I use for most of my stamping and blending. Now I'm using the same colors of ink to go over these areas, and once again just allowing these to blend over each other. Sometimes I move backwards in this rainbow blending order to kind of further allow those inks to blend together. So you'll see me move from orange to yellow and then back to orange a little bit, then into the green. So I'm kind of moving back and forth throughout this rainbow blending pattern. Now, once I have the blending completed for the second stencil, you can see it's very beautiful. We're getting that layered sunburst look. I'm going to take my third stencil, once again, tape it into place over my cardstock, and I'm going to bring in some darker inks this time. So just one shade darker in all of these color families. So I have passion fruit, apricot, sunshine, aquamarine, grassy knoll, and candy violet. And once again, I'm just going to blend around this stencil, allowing those colors to overlap. This is going to give more color intensity in this area, but this stencil has the least amount of open area. So I'm going to get this really beautiful variance of color and depth when I remove this stencil. I'm going to show you how it looks. Isn't that so cool? I love the way this turned out, but we're going to take it up a notch. Because if you know me, you know I love my sparkle. I'm going to clean off my stencil. I'm going to place it back over my cardstock, but this time I'm going to shift it just a tiny bit to where you can see a little bit of that white showing through. So see me shifting it there? Then I'll hold it in place with the same purple tape that I've been using the whole time. And I'm going to grab my Tonic Moonstone Glimmer Paste. This is like magic, especially when you put it over this rainbow ink blended panel here through this stencil. So once again, this is stencil number 3. It has the least amount of open area. And you can see I'm working from the center out because I didn't really want my glimmer paste to pick up a lot of color from the ink as I kind of spread it over this area. But I did notice that the Pinkfresh inks really tend to stay in place. They don't reactivate a whole lot, so I didn't run into that. Now, once I remove the stencil, I'm going to go ahead and clean it off. Isn't this magical? I was totally thrilled with the results. In fact, when I was recording this, you can hear me talking out loud in the video footage, and I'm just like, that is so fun. I shared it on my Instagram stories, that little clip there, but I was thrilled with the way that it turned out. So I cleaned off my stencil, I cleaned off my little spatula tool, and I'm allowing that glitter to dry and doing a little die cutting for my sentiment. So I have a little silver glitter cardstock. That cardstock is from Memory Box. And I used this word die from Pinkfresh Studio. It says celebrate to die cut that silver glitter cardstock. And then I used the shadow die to die cut some vellum. And this little, what I'm calling a banner die, is actually from the Artistic Bows die set from Pinkfresh Studio that I've been using a lot of. I love that die set. And this little tail kind of piece creates a really fun little banner. So I'm going to take and add some liquid glue behind this die cut sentiment and kind of adhere it at an angle over this banner because the banner isn't quite large enough to kind of house the sentiment. So I'm just kind of making it work here. Then I flipped it over and I added some foam adhesive behind that banner. And I'm going to add the vellum shadow layer behind that foam adhesive. Now, I'm going to tell you, I really should have let this glitter dry a little bit longer, but I was kind of in a hurry. And I wanted to add a little more of that radiating pattern to this ink blended panel. So I took the Radiating 2 cover plate from Pinkfresh Studio and I ran this through my die cut machine. And I am just removing that die now. And you're going to see that this presses in some additional lines into this radiating pattern. Now, because my glitter wasn't super dry, I did have a little bit of glitter paste transfer over onto my die. I was able to clean it off, but just let it dry. You'll save yourself a little bit of trouble. And then I'm going to take the Pinkfresh Studio Essential Stitched Rectangle Set, and I'm taking the smaller of the two stitched rectangles, and I'm going to die cut this panel again. This time, I'm going to add a little scrap paper over the top of it so I don't get any glitter transfer onto my cutting pad. And then when I remove this, I figured out that I now have two really fabulous pieces for cards. So it wasn't originally my intent to do a 2-for-1, but this really did turn into a 2-for-1 because I was like, this frame is awesome. Now that die that I used to create that radiating pattern, in addition to the ink blended area, does cut out a center circle area, but I just left that in place. I added some fun foam behind this panel, and I'm placing it onto an A2 top folding card base made out of some linen cardstock. I just adhered that in place, and then I'm taking my little sentiment grouping here. It has a double layer of foam adhesive behind it, and placing that onto my card front. And I'm going to just add a few little sparkly pieces. These are the Pinkfresh Studio Essential Crystals set. These are the clear crystals. And I'm adhering them on just using a little bit of liquid glue. And I was absolutely thrilled with the way this card turned out. It is perfect for a birthday or for celebrating a new year that is just around the corner. Can I get an amen? So now that we have the first card done, let's go ahead and move into the second card. We're going to make a shaker card using this frame. And that little area on the right-hand side that I was kind of pointing to a moment ago, that really did need to be trimmed off because I didn't get my panel or my cover plate in just the right spot. So before I trim that off, I'm going to stabilize this piece with the acetate that I'm going to attach on the back side of it anyway. So I added some liquid glue to the back side of my frame, added my acetate piece, and then I took this over to my trimmer and trimmed off just a little hair off that right-hand side because there was a little area of kind of white area that didn't get ink blended. And that created the perfect stabilization for me to be able to trim off that really thin area. I wouldn't have wanted to do it on the frame by itself because the frame was kind of delicate with those die cut rays that were going through it. So that acetate really did help to stabilize the frame while I trimmed it down. Now I have this flipped over and I am adding a double layer of foam adhesive on the back side of the frame so that it can hold in my shaker bits. And I have a top folding A2 size linen cardstock card base here. So it's cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches and scored at 5.5 inches to create that top folding card. And I'm adding my shaker bits right on top of the card base because it's going to allow me to just get this positioned just so. And before I place my frame onto the card base, I am going to treat the inside of that foam adhesive with a little bit of powder tool so that those shaker guts don't stick to the sides of this foam adhesive. Then I can remove the backer from the foam adhesive, line this up with my card base and press it down. Now for the sentiment on this card, I loved it so much on the first card that I decided to keep that just the same. I did the same little layering kind of treatment, I guess, that I did on the first card. So I have that Celebrate word die cut on top of the little banner piece with the vellum shadow behind it. A double layer of foam adhesive behind that entire thing, and I just added a little bit of liquid glue to make sure that it adhered really well onto this slick acetate surface, as well as all that glitter that's on the frame as well. So that finishes off my second card. It is beautiful and rainbow and sparkly, and I absolutely love the way it turned out. Like I said, when I set out, I was not planning on a twofer, but this turned out absolutely beautiful. I love the way these cards turned out. And I think you're really going to like working with these layering stencils that are new from Pinkfresh Studio. And be sure to keep an eye on my channel. I will be sharing that daisy wreath tutorial soon here featuring these new stencils and coordinating dies from Pinkfresh Studio. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. Or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that link below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, a complete list of supplies, as well as some information on a giveaway over at my blog for a $25 Pinkfresh Studio e-gift card. So you don't want to miss that. This video is a part of a blog hop celebrating this new Pinkfresh Studio release. So there will be lots of inspiration and giveaways associated with that blog hop. So if you want to check that out, be sure you head on over to my blog. As always, thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. And I would love it if you would share this video with a friend as well. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.